Hello, my name is Benji and welcome to Dice vs Cards. Today we venture to the red planet Forth from the Sun as we commence a new series of videos focusing on board game strategy. Today's topic is one of my favourite games of all time, Terraforming Mars. A stone cold classic and one that I've immensely enjoyed improving at over time. Alas, we're here to bring you 10 key tips for a beginner to the game. There'll be no theory crafting here or too much in the way of in-depth explanation, but you never know, even you more experienced players might learn a thing or two. Number 1 helps you right at the very start of the game. When picking your corporation card, make sure you do your level best to pick one that complements the 10 project cards you've got to choose from. To be fair, not all corporations are created equal, but the cards you choose from during setup will often influence which way to go. If you've got some nice buildings you want to purchase and you've got interplanetary cinematics as a corp choice, or you're looking at the mining guild that starts you the game with some steel, then the choice may as well have been made for you. Similarly, for example, if you've got Helion as a corp choice and some heat production cards, then hand and glove that shizzle. Number 2 is the most global of the tips, and it's how you should perceive the flow of the game. The first few turns are all about improving your economy. The game becomes quite the race towards the end, and so you need to be prepared. Your income, be it plants or heat, steel or titanium, needs to be humming by the time you move to the mid game, and should be firing on all cylinders come the last few rounds. Now, whilst it's very difficult to say, okay, I'm on turn X, what should I do? If you estimate that a game on average will last between 8 to 12 generations, with more players equaling shorter games in terms of turns, you want to spend the first half on your economy and the second half on grabbing points. Just bear in mind that there's a fairly flexible overlap between the two in the mid game. Number 3. As an extension to the last point, make sure you're not making hopeful picks with the cards you buy each turn. Cards that give you points and a bonus are not going to give you as much value for money early game, and cards that just give you points will make your economy weep tears of sadness. Number 4. Whatever you do, do not pick cards that don't meet the current global requirements and so can't be used. They might look amazing, but if they only go Buckwild for 2 turns at the end of the game, then they're about as useful as a chocolate fireguard. The only exception to this rule should be if you know someone, preferably you, as you should know your own plans, will definitely trigger the requirements of the card in the upcoming generation. Number 5. Do not treat standard projects like the ugly stepsister. Yes, they might not be as glamorous as those beautifully bespoke project cards, but let's recap what they get you. So the asteroid for 14 mega credits gives you a point plus an extra buck a turn. The aquafire for 18 credits gives you the same plus any tile placement and or mega credit bonuses. And the greenery for 23 credits, which gives you all of that plus a further point at the end of the game. Don't get me wrong, they're often about 3 or 4 mega credits more expensive than getting the same net effect with project cards, but they're always there like Mr. or Mrs. Reliable. Number 6. Always remember there are milestones up for grabs. Now, quite often you'll only be in the run-in for 1 or 2 of them, so don't try and stretch yourself too thin. Be economical with meeting their requirements and make sure you pip the other players to the one you're going for. Number 7. The same goes for awards, which are a bit more fraught with danger, but still worth your time and effort. Obviously the best case scenario is you can confidently place a marker down before anyone else in the early to mid game, but you have to have a high degree of confidence you're winning that category if you do. You're also placing a marker on your back if you go too early. The second award can still be worth it at 14 mega credits, and the hope is you'll have a much higher degree of confidence by the time you're thinking of pulling the trigger. And as for the 20 credit option, you really need to avoid being put in a position where you're spending that much for 5 points late game. Don't get me wrong, there are scenarios where it's your most economical play, but rarely. Number 8. Be very aware of those slow grow cards, especially after the first couple of turns. As you can imagine, every generation that passes where you don't use their once a turn ability diminishes their overall effectiveness. Number 9. To 2 actions or not to 2 actions? That is the question. Well, if you apply this simple principle, you'll be golden. Are there potential scenarios whereby I can be stopped doing what I want to do? Be it by someone placing a tile where you wanted to go, or grabbing a global objective bonus before you. And always remember that there are take that cards that can steal resources from you when considering this. If none of those things can happen, then just take an action and pass. It's always good to know what people are doing before you do your thing, but quite often you can get gazumped if you dally too long. Number 10. Be careful about going all in on one production type, for the very reason that there's only finite TR increases up for grabs, which is particularly relevant when raising the temperature with heat and the oxygen with greenery. Having surplus resources that you can't use, especially heat, which you'll then find is useful only in the limited instance that you've gone for the Thermalist award. So there you have it, 10 easy to remember tips to get you from a beginner level to an intermediate level when getting your Terraform on. Stay tuned for more videos in this series. However, that's it from me. I'll see you next time.